Now that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has paid another fraudulent and academic allowance to the academic staff union, to the leadership of the academic staff union of Nigerian universities. What next? Because I blew the whistle near innumerable times to this government, the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying that the so-called earned academic allowance is not earned academic allowance, but a scam to fool the members of the academic staff union of Nigerian universities and the non-academic workers, because earned allowances are calculated for those who earned them, and they are paid directly to those who earned them, and not to be given to the leadership of the workers' unions, who will now distribute lopsidedly. And that this thing called earned academic allowance was never calculated for any worker, but a bribe agreed between government and the leadership of the academic staff union of Nigerian universities. So, despite my innumerable or near innumerable whistle blowing, why did President Tinubu key into it if he were not corrupt through and through and encouraging corruption and exploitation of workers, including the federal universities workers, whose salaries have not been increased as normal since due in 2013 till date 2025. So, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has no hiding place anymore. He has exposed himself as a lover and promoter of corruption that the so-called earned academic allowance represents. And now that he has paid the so-called earned academic allowance to ASU to be shared with the non-academic unions, what next? Because that has been the case since 2013, when ASU leadership colluded with the presidency of Goodluck Ebele Asikwe Jonathan to be paying fraudulent earned academic allowance in lieu of increment of salaries and implementation of the 2009 agreement due in 2013. So, meaning that the last time federal universities workers, academic and non-academic, got increment of salaries, properly so called, was 2009 under the presidency of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, meaning that throughout the presidency of Goodluck Ebele Asikwe Jonathan 4 years and Muhammadu Buhari 8 years, federal universities workers got no increment of salary, properly so called, and that ASU leaders always ended every strike with getting the fraudulent earned academic allowance. All of this I drummed into the ears of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but for his crave for corruption and collaborators in corruption, he decided to pay the so-called earned academic allowance anyway, to again obliterate the proper increment of salaries for federal universities workers, academic and non-academic. So, what are we talking about? So, those who think that President Tinubu has anything good to offer Nigerians, they should forget about it, because he has been behind the power since 2015 throughout the 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari. People were agonizing under Buhari and hoping that and praying that his tenure should end. And when his tenure ended, they were jubilating in anticipation of a better deal, only for Tinubu to vow to continue the so-called good works of Muhammadu Buhari. And so what has changed? The war against Boko Haram is continuous. Herdsmen terrorism continuous. Armed bandits even getting worse, because the economic situation is not better for Nigerians but worse. And so a fertile ground for corruption and armed banditry, kidnapping, terrorist activities, and so on. So this is where we are, unfortunately. With all my whistle blowing drummed directly into the ears of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he paid another end academic allowance. So something that is clearly not end academic allowance, but a bribe between government and the leadership of academic staff union of Nigerian universities, shared with the non-academic unions, from which the leaders of the unions, including the leaders of ASU, become automatic multimillionaire at the expense of the workers. Because the end allowances of the workers were never calculated to be paid directly to the workers, but a bribe given to the leaders to appease the leaders as collaborators in corruption and human exploitation. Oh my God. You promise you will bring down fuel subsidy, fuel price, you raise it up in the name of fuel subsidy is gone. So your corruption is broad daylight corruption. That is what it means. Even in paying this fraudulent money with all the whistle I blew into your ears, directly into your ears, I leave you to the court of God, because there's nothing I can do to you. The ASU leaders who are doing what they are doing to ASU members know that ASU members cannot do anything to them. They have the backing of the university administrators and the federal government. So who can do anything to them? And so they amended the constitution in 2012 to be extorting 2% of each ASU members' monthly salary and so that went through out the presidency of Jonathan and Muhammadu Buhari, and now also Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So what hope for the poor man than to look to God? And so I leave you to the court of God, because I've done my best to make sure you don't fall into the line of fraudulent and academic allowance. When allowances were not calculated for workers to be paid to workers, but a bribe given to unions leaders, with particular reference to ASU, extorting a percentage of each ASU member's monthly salary monthly. And under your presidency, the extortion went from 2% to 3%. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, oh, I pity you. Accept my empathy.